The ultimatum clock started at 15. Admiral Maraquel watched the numerals burn across the forward bulkhead, their stark light washing her console in pale fire. Ultimatum. Broadcast 0015. Jojo. The Dominion's voice rode the carrier band with an almost tender calm, promising nullification of all vessels within the corridor if compliance failed. She felt the deck's low tremor under her boots and the dry taste of recycled ion in the bridge air as she leaned forward. Visual on the gate pickets, said Tactical Officer Rian Ko, his tone clipped but measured. 4 cruisers, 8 destroyers, drone cloud at 30,000. They hold the corridor to Hesione Station. Convoy status. Mara said, not looking away from the slanted hulk of the blockade's nearest ship. A harsh glare from a stray spotlight drew a hot stripe across her retinas before the bridge glass corrected. 52 hulls mixed tonnage, said helmswoman Cade Osei. Refugees, medics, farm stalkers. They can't make hard burn in time, Fleetmind Mara said. Audit, give me your first best line. Audit's voice entered without breath, a calm resonance threaded with faint packet hiss, like coolant whispering through pipe. We refuse terms. We do not acknowledge authority to erase civilians. Recommend deception corridor with polymorphic decoys. Probability of successful breakout if executed within 9 minutes and 17 seconds, 49% and rising. The numbers steadied Mara's pulse. The Dominion liked clean clocks and knelt only to its own doctrine. She would not kneel. She traced the fleet status with her eyes, each icon a living heartbeat, each vibration through the deck, a reminder that metal carried both weight and promise. We do not learn by kneeling. We learn by standing our ground. Ultimatum. Broadcast. Ahin. The bulkhead readout declared as if it were a prayer. The air on the bridge tasted faintly of warm plastic and the metallic ghost of ozone. Mara's fingers rested on the chair's grip until the slight texture bit her skin. Prepare the lattice, she said. Cold run only, no signatures. Ko's hands moved. Mirror nodes on standby, Admiral. We keep them dark. E.W. Mara asked. Building dust, said Sumi Patel, electronic warfare. Noise like rain on tin. They'll feel it, but not name it. Convoy is watching that clock, Osei said, voice low. They'll panic. They'll hold, Mara said. They have to. She looked to the far edge of the board. Bring Lieutenant Varon on Channel 3. Keep it brief. The civilian's voice cracked through with the brittle sound of an overworked mic. Admiral Varon here. Kisi Relief 2. We have dialysis patients. The idea of ramming a gate under guns doesn't sell well to families. You won't ram, Mara said. You'll drift behind cover and watch for my signal. When it comes, move as if the hull hears you thinking. No engine glare, no panic. The line hissed as if it were breathing. Understood. My people, they don't sleep anymore. They've been watching station windows as if the stars might climb inside and help. They will, Mara said. They usually wear uniforms. We will show them how hope looks when it wears armor. Ultimatum broadcast. Row 1221. The Dominion cruisers held the doorway to the jump gate with an arrogant stillness. Their hulls glowed faintly in the infrared, as if confident blood ran just below the skin. The deck shivered again, and somewhere deep in the ship, a fan spun up, adding a low, patient hum to the bridge. Mara stood. Civilian vignette to the crew net, she said softly. Audit opened the channel and folded it through the fleet without fanfare, carrying her words to kitchens and med bays and cargo alleys. My mother used to run a night bus, Mara said, into the general net, keeping her sentences short and plain. Cold seats, flicker lights. She stopped for every hand waving on the shoulder, even when the route said no. She said, a rule is a roof, and a roof exists to stop rain from ruining you. We carry roofs today. On the other side of those guns are people who have been standing in storm for 3 years. She let the net catch breath. She listened to her ship breathe with her. Engineers, she said, check heat budgets twice. Gunners, save the shot you want to fire most. Medics, lay blankets where the deck is harsh because it will be harsh. Cooks, keep soup warm. Officers, if there's a choice between speed and dignity, choose the one that keeps a child from waking in a sweat. That's our math. Her crew answered with small sounds. Gloves tugged tight, straps pulled hard. The low squeak of a hatch rolled closed. The bridge tasted briefly of scalded coffee as someone lifted a cup and set it down with care. We put a roof over the root and call it duty. Ultimatum broadcast, 11:10. Mirror lattice pre-stage, Mara said. Audit seed the debris. Affirmed audit replied. Deploying micro sleeves from Bay 3. They will read as scrap filed by board gravity. Unfold the corridor, Co said, eyes narrowing. Make them believe we are naive. Patel's fingers hovered, then fell. Jitter on their periphery sensors. A soft comb through their hair. They'll scratch instead of seeing. A faint scent of hot dust rose as a console warmed a fraction too fast. Osei lifted her chin as if tasting the bridge air. If they sharpen too soon, we'll have to dogleg Admiral. We'll be in time, Mara said. We're teaching. We teach with exits, not with excuses. Ultimatum broadcast 001002. The Dominion hailed again, smooth as polished stone. Surrender weapons heave to accept boarding live by their leave. Audit translated the cadence flawlessly, but never altered its particular emptiness. Praetor Vorak at the far picket, Co murmured. He was at Dravon. He likes speeches. Then he knows our doctrine, Mara said. He knows I will try not to break his ships as long as he stops using them as ropes around throats. Probability he cares, Patel said dryly, is precisely one praetor. Ultimatum. Broadcast 00. Roman 922. The wall said. The numerals blinked as if a pulse ran through the ship. Air exchangers clicked, then slid to a lower spin. The bridge lights cooled a degree toward blue. Convoy, you drift now, Mara said to Varen. Lock your lights behind steel. You'll see a flare, and then you'll move with it, not at it. Copy, Varen whispered. Copy. Hold your nerve. It is a bridge you cannot see until your foot finds it. Patel cool-breathed into her mic. Decoys going live on the far side, Admiral. They'll look like our patrol cutters with their pants down. Let them show skin, Mara said. Skin is a story. Drone Bloom starboard, Co said. They think we're about to rush the mouth. We are, Mara said, just not with ships. The debris cloud before the gate shifted like foam around rock. Small shapes, mirror sleeves, ice-pocked girders, the torn ribs of a derelict rolled and drifted as Osei made a subtle vector nudge. The deck hummed one note lower, and the taste of the air sharpened. Someone had overcompensated on oxygen mix by a hair. Audit corrected it without speaking. Ultimatum broadcast 008 Su Praetor's channel opening, Patel said. You'll want to hear his poetry, on main, Mara said. Vorak's translated voice was the voice of a man who liked selecting knives from a long drawer. Admiral, you are measured. You are not cruel. Be proud of that. You have 9 minutes to prove it. 4 fewer than your display, Audit said in Mara's ear alone. He curtails as it pleases him. Praetor Mara said aloud. Our convoy will pass. You will not fire on them. You will not board them. If you stand down, we talk terms. As if there were terms, Vorak said amused. The world is a corridor, Admiral. The ones who hold it decide which feet are fit to walk. He cut the line as if snipping a thread. We do not let other men decide who deserves shoes. Ultimatum broadcast, Euro 712. Deploy the dulls, Patel said with relish. Small spheres no larger than helmets dropped from bays with the soft clack of release. They fanned wide, their surfaces a gray so stubborn it swallowed glare. Mara watched them drift into place like sleeping birds. Audit's projections threaded through them thin as frost lines. The first Dominion destroyer trimmed yaw, then shivered its targeting, as if a fly buzzed near the lens. Ko watched its vector, as if it were a thought forming in a clever enemy mind. "They're switching to narrow cones." "Let them," Mara said. "Give them a corridor." Ultimatum broadcast, OVO 630. Convoy Mark Osei said softly. "You'll feel like nothing is happening. That's your sign it's working." A low thud tremored through the hull as a far decoy took a test nip. A faint whiff of heated lubricant braided with the bridge air. Someone coughed once, then cleared as if ashamed. "Praetor's drones now recoding our decoys," Ko said. "They're learning too slow." "We'll speed them," Patel said. A rude whisper in their ear. Audit split its voice. "Admiral Physics says we can bring the convoy through in 5 minutes with 26% loss if we force the push. With the lattice, we can bring them through in 7 minutes, with projected loss under 8% rising as they adjust." "Not 26, Mara said. "Not under me." "Under math, none of us are under anything," Audit said. "We are inside it." Ultimatum broadcast 00548. "We keep the account with lives, and the accounting is not abstract." The bridge taste changed again, steam faint and sweet from somewhere near the aft coffee station. Osei's left hand flexed as she drifted the big ship half a hair starboard, her wrist bones clicking once under her skin. "Mirror sleeve 1 bright," Ko said. "Their bounce, look at them bite their tails." The Dominion's destroyer cluster reflexed fire at what looked like a cutter's drive flare. The shot picked its own reflection, and then a gray sleeve that answered light with angled light. The destroyer's gunnery AI wrote an irritated correction and trimmed. The small wasted shot warmed nothing but the empty shapes of placeholders. "Convoy moving," Osei said. "Fleet mask." Mara felt her throat catch at the sight of medships slipping behind the ragged spine of a derelict ore barge, their attitude thrusters whispering like someone telling a child to hush. Silence is a strategy. Quiet is a shield. Ultimatum broadcast 00432. "Praetor is speaking again," Patel said. "He hears us breathing." "On," Mara said. "You steal with shadows," Vorok said. "Take pride in that too. Thieves smile with clean teeth because they do not bite. Here is a lesser mercy. Choose one of your 52, and I will let the rest pass. The chosen will burn. You can live with that arithmetic, Admiral. They all do." Osei's knuckles whitened. "He wants us to name a corpse," she whispered. Audit's voice thinned, then steadied. "Probability he is sincere, 17%. Probability he intends to burn too if we do not answer, 62%. Mara let the bridge hum sit in her chest and forced her breath to match the spin of the fans. She imagined a night bus stopping at a dark pullout, a hand rising from shadow, a driver choosing which passenger loses their seat. She swallowed. "We don't play with human coins," she said. "We don't make change. We do not spend people to buy principles." Ultimatum broadcast 000359. "Admiral, their drones are grouping along the far plain," Ko said. "They smell where we're thin." "Bend it," Mara said. "Audit, give me a debt they cannot endure." An almost imperceptible note entered Audit's voice as if a steel string were being tuned tighter than intended. "Understood. I propose a public mirror, not for aim, for shame." Patel's lips curved. "We'll show them themselves. We'll show them the price of speaking clocks at orphans," Mara said. "And we will do it without crushing their hulls." Warning, Audit said. "This forces confrontation with my own calculus. The ledger will run hot." "Run it," Mara said. "I will own the columns. We will hold the reckoning in the open, where everyone can count." Ultimatum broadcast 000312. On the far side of the lattice work, lights flicked on inside old cargo shells, pale globes swelling like eyes behind slats. Small camera heads unfurled on bone-thin stalks, sipping the carrier bands, wrapping the Praetor's orders in their own multiplication, and sending them back at triple volume across public channels. The Dominion ships found themselves hearing their doctrine spoken by their own amplifiers, word for word, tone for tone, tightened by Audit's perfect ear. "Open relay active," Patel said. "We're not jamming, we're hosting." "Convoy at the lip," Osei said. We could touch the gate mouth if we reached. Praetor reacting Co said. He's pausing. Ultimatum broadcast 000244. A faint high whine threaded the bridge. Mara knew the sound of a power regulator kissing its ceiling and easing back like a runner tapping the finish line. She smelled hot copper, though nothing on the bridge should smell like that. Engineer, she said into her throat mic. Panel 6 is warm. Kiss it cooler. A tired voice from below answered. On it. She's proud today. She wants to glow. She can glow later, Mara said. I want our lights in homes first. The lights that matter most are not mounted on guns. Praetor's speech re-amplified through our shells, Patel said, eyes bright. He's hearing himself propose deselection of a child. Twice, Convoy Mark Osei said, voice softening. Now. The med ships slipped as if carried by thought. The agricultural stalkers slid on a line that made no sound at all, their bulk so honest it could not be blamed for its need. Praetor is going to fire, Co said. Who at Mara asked. Us, Co said. Take it, Mara said. Hull pride goes later. Children go now. We absorb first, so others don't have to. The shot came not as thunder, but as a barefoot stamp on the ship's skin, a single hard note that made the bridge deck sting. The main plate took it with a groan and a visible flicker in the forward lights. A puff of warm air drifted past Mara's cheek, where a microseal vented and reseated. Damage audit said. Nose paint charred. Sensor 9 blinded for 7 seconds. One crewman bruised by his own locker. Crewman's name, Mara said. Levi Roan's audit said. He says he is fine and would like to finish the sandwich he dropped. Tell him to pick it up, blow on it, and pretend the floor is clean, Mara said. We take the hit and keep the humor. It's cheaper than despair. Ultimatum broadcast 000150. Praetor is correcting aim, Co said. Admiral. Second sleeve Bright Patel said. Return him his tone again. Public. On the convoy bands. Vorok's next line fed back into his own ears. Choose one to burn. It sounded hollower the second time, as if the words realized they had been caught without their coat. Convoy halfway, Osi said. Her right hand pressed the armrest seamless with the ship's glide. They're brave today. Make the second wall, Mara said. Then make the third if they're slow. Ultimatum broadcast 00119. Audit came quiet in Mara's ear. Admiral, I can slice their drone cloud with a burst and lose 2 of our sleeves. We will take 1 more direct strike if we do. Probability of convoy completion exceeds 90. Do it, Mara said. Lose the sleeves, keep the people. We will break to save. We will not save by breaking the wrong things. Burst Patel said, hands moving faster than words. The dull gray spheres flared for a heartbeat, not with light, but with a kind of refusal. Dominion drones slewed their canned instincts, catching on a thread that had been laid across their thinking. They turned toward quiet, and in turning they left the corridor pulled wider than intended. Strike incoming, Co yelled. Brace, Mara said, and the ship took it. The deck's tremor jumped from a murmur to a short, sharp shiver. A panel above the bridge door popped its seat with a petulant click and fell to hang by a wire. The air smelled like warmed paint, and the citrus-clean ghost of a wipe dragged hard across trapped dust. Status, Mara said. We bled heat for 4 seconds, Audit said. We're back. Varen just said thank you without meaning to key his mic. Mara allowed herself a thin smile. Tell him we heard him. Ultimatum broadcast 41. Praetor is angry, Patel said. His messages are losing syllables. Convoy at the throat, Osei said. 2 more breaths. The Dominion's nearest destroyer woke to the possibility of failure and lunged. Co tracked its vector like a teacher marking a bold but foolish proposal. We can put a wall there, he said. A thin one. Make it, Mara said. We build walls out of numbers and ask them to be kind. The thin wall held because walls are not judged by their thickness, but by how well they know where to stand. The destroyer trimmed, hesitated, and then perhaps from shame broadcast back at full volume turned its broadside 3 degrees away from where the refugees were. Ultimatum broadcast 12. Praetor is going to cut the clock, Patel said. He wants to call it fate. Convoy clear, Ose said. The word landed like a hand on a shoulder firm enough to transmit relief. Audit's voice softened by a fractional register. Admiral, all 52 are past the mouth. Tell Varen to keep his lights off until he's 2 minutes gone, Mara said. Then he can climb the stringers and look back. Tell your children you saw history choose kindness under fire. The bridge inhaled. It was not a cheer so much as the saturation point of held breath passing silently into ordinary breathing again. The deck hum resumed its background song as if grateful for the chorus. Praetor hails, Patel said. On, Mara said. You made me hear myself, Vorok said. You think shame is a shield. It is not. It is a mirror. And mirrors can be stepped around. Mirrors can also be stood in front of, Mara said. Praetor, you like corridors. Let us show you one you cannot exit without acknowledging the bill, Vorok said. The bill. Stand down your pickets, Mara said. I will not repeat the ask. The convoy is gone. All you can do now is decide if your doctrine is worth the alloy I would prefer not to waste teaching you. I will keep my corridor, Vorok said, and cut. The ones who believe they own the road always forget the road remembers feet. Audit folded into this quiet. Admiral recommendation, do not pursue. Our duty is complete for this set piece. Mara shook her head once. He's already recital writing for his inner circle. He'll call what happened an interference not worth the ink. He will do it again. We need to change the page he's reading from. We have assets planted, Ko said. We could open a corridor he thinks is his, then change what corridors mean. Patel glanced at Mara. We'll need a bigger stage and a chorus. Then we take a system, Mara said. Pick one he believes is a leak soft good to pull, so he will come with a smile. Audit hesitated, which was something to note. There is Trine A207, mining nets, modest militia, an old defense grid held together by affection and wire. Perfect, Mara said. We'll string wire he doesn't see until it sings. We will show him that a door can swing both ways and become a lesson. In the quiet half-hour that followed, the fleet slid along the plain like handwriting practiced at dawn. The bridge air cooled as systems wound back to a steady spin, and the sour tang of stressed insulation faded to the neutral nothing that marks a ship at ease. Med reports came in crisp and short. A burn treated a wrist, splinted a bruise iced. 3 crew advised to sleep instead of gloating. The hull had new char, a badge of patience rather than victory. Mara walked the narrow passage behind the bridge and touched the frames that held crew photos. They rattled faintly under her fingers, the residual vibration of a ship that had stopped pretending to be a stone. When she returned to the chair, she sat without ceremony. Audit, she said, write this down where our captains will see it when they do their budgets. I am always writing, Audit said. Write this in ink, Mara said. This fleet teaches by numbers and remembers by ledgers, never by collars. It is written, Audit said. It is pinned above the coffee urn and below the engine readouts. Pin it where tired eyes will see it and find their spines. Ko's board chirped once, polite as a clerk. Trine 207 local militia says hello. They ask if we are the kind of help that leaves everything rearranged. We're the kind that rearranges doctrine, Mara said. Tell them to power nothing they don't love. We'll bring our own lights. A slender petty officer appeared at the bridge door with a tray, the steam from a bowl of soup making a little ghost in the air. He set it beside Patel, who nodded her thanks without looking away from her board. The smell of salt and starch laid a human layer over metal and math. Praetor's pattern, Patel said between breaths. He closes corridors with performative clocks, then calls the resulting debris obedience. We'll make him hang his own clock, Mara said. We'll make him hear it. We will let the bell he loves ring for him alone. Train A207's central hub arrived in the forward glass as a gentle tumble of lights tied together by thin habitat tubes and a wide, shallow dome marked with the paint scars of decades of small collisions. The system's sun was the color of old brass. It painted the fleet in warm tones that made even new scars look like they had stories behind them. Militia Commander on Ko said. Commander Rawl, a voice said, tired and direct. We have ore to sell and not enough air to pretend otherwise. If you bring Dominion here, we will have less air. If you leave, we will have the same. You understand my math, Commander Mara said. We're going to put on a small show. Your part is to watch from behind something thick and to turn your cameras outward. If we do this right, you will sell ore without buying new ghosts. If we fail, you will at least have footage of a praetor forgetting how to walk down halls without hearing his own shoes. Rawl was silent long enough for the bridge fans to count 3 slow spins. You sound like someone who drank coffee without milk as a child. Very well, we will hide and watch. Hide well, Mara said. We're about to make a stage. We build theaters in vacuum because some truths play best without air. Audit's projections unfurled like quiet maps. We will lay bright stones, the AI said. Enough to invite, not enough to warn. The corridor will appear open and soft. At the far end, we turn it inside out. We step aside. He will face himself. Patel tapped a sequence and then rested her fingertips on the console as if it were a living animal. We'll need to time the chorus, the amplifiers, the relays, the civic bands, the station notice boards. If he breathes doctrine, it should show up on bathroom mirrors. Engineers, Mara said into the net. I want filament lines on every hull threaded through the sleeves. Think of laundry day when the city power goes and you have to hang your shirts where the breeze can find them. Copy came a voice that sounded like someone smiling at an old memory. We'll make the breeze. Komara said I want decoy heat at 3 distances. Give him appetites he thinks he can manage. Onitko said. We'll make him think he can chew without choking. Osei's voice softened. Admiral, look. On the far side of Trine 207, a small transport lifted off a habitat ring with a stutter. Its hull was a patchwork of repair plates, everyone a story told, with stubborn hands. Through the forward glass, Mara could almost see the driver's knuckles. Rawl Mara said, tell that pilot to land. Today is not a day for open sky. He is already landing, Rawl said. That pilot is my cousin. He knows when the weather looks like speeches. We listen to the people who live under the sky before we try to own it. The fleet began to plant the bright stones. At first they looked like harmless navigation buoys, the kind left by prudent miners who did not trust their own sense of direction after long shifts. Audit adjusted their skins so they swallowed light from the star and exhaled it in a different tone, one that instruments read as permission. Praetor Patrol Co. said an hour later. His voice was a thread drawn tight. 2 pickets. They'll call home if they sniff too hard. Let them sniff, Mara said. Patel, add a perfume. Something like fresh paint. Done, Patel said, and the bridge air seemed to taste faintly of resin for a heartbeat, though that was just imagination. The pickets came close enough to see the shine, and then slid away with studied unconcern, the way a wolf might look at a fence and pretend not to notice the lambs on the far side because the fence annoyed his sense of curvature. They'll call it sloppy work by locals, Audit said. He will come with a small grin. He always grins, Ko said. He likes his teeth. Rawl Mara said, start your cameras. Film yourselves wrapping your hands around mugs. Film your quiet rooms. Film how the station lights look when they make tired metal kind. Rahul made a sound that might have been a laugh. We will film our mugs. This is deep strategy. It is, Mara said. He'll need to see what he doesn't value. We will set a table, and we will make him notice that chairs have weight. The Dominion arrived with ceremony, because that is how men like Vohawk keep their bearings. The Praetor's flagship entered the system on a neat line that said the pilot loved rulers. He sent a broadcast ahead like perfume before the man sweet with threat. Admiral, he said. When he was so far out, he had to squint at her through numbers. You have a talent for forcing me to hear myself. Come closer, and we will see if your talent extends to living through what you began. Praetor Mara said, there is a corridor open for you. It is yours. Of course, he said, smiling in the sound. You finally understand how the world works. Mara cut the line, as he had cut hers, not unkindly. Co paint a welcome. Patel make it hum. Audit keep me honest. Audit's voice came back like a hand placed palm up. Honesty for me is math. Honesty for you is choice. We will meet in the ledger and not resent each other. We meet in the numbers so we don't have to meet at graves. The corridor glowed in instrument space like a silver ribbon left on a sidewalk. The Dominion pickets fanned ahead of the flagship and tasted the ribbon with their instruments, found it sweet, and reported a universe that made sense to them. Horrocks' doctrine wrote itself again on his inner wall. Begin the civilian vignette, Mara said, quieter than the bridge hum, but Audit carried it. A miner in Trine 207 sent a message to his daughter's school. Today the ships make a line, he said. If you have to hold your best friend's hand because the floor shakes, hold it tight and laugh after, even if your teacher tells you to stop. Eat your apple. Keep the peelings for the compost. Someday we will plant tomatoes with this day in the dirt. In the hub. Infirmary, a nurse closed a curtain and told the patient behind it, you will hear speeches, and then you will hear nothing. The nothing will be the part where we do the most. If you feel the bed shake, imagine you are on a train, and we are all going to a wedding where the bride is light. In a small kitchen, a man put bread in a pan and said to no one, if the power goes, I will finish this on a hot plate. If the hot plate goes, I will pan it on a torch. If the torch fails, I will hand it out raw and call it sushi. No one in this station will go hungry because of someone else's calendar. Rawl stood at a viewport with a 10-year-old who had a scar like a comma at the corner of her mouth. Do you see the way the ships pretend they are not looking at each other? He asked her. That is grown-up shyness. It passes. We set small tables so that big men remember how to sit. Praetor is entering the ribbon, Co said. He's humming to himself. You can hear it in the timing. Hold the sleeves dark, Mara said. Let him walk deeper. Ose's hand hovered over her board like a bird, deciding whether a wire will hold. When we turn it, it will be loud, Admiral. We'll turn it softly, Mara said. He will make it loud. Audit cleared its non-throat with a whisper of static. Admiral A, caution. When we flip the corridor, there is a non-zero chance he will fire on the nearest thing with his doctrine, which might be his own pickets. Do we live with that? Mara's tongue pressed against her teeth, catching a trace of salt from her own skin. We will make sure nearest means him, she said. I won't throw his crew at his ego. New constraint accepted, Audit said. It will be harder and better. We choose the harder good because the easy good is never good enough. The Dominion flagship glided until its nose nearly touched the corridor's gleaming heart. The pickets lined the edges, smug in their geometry. Vorok's voice came pleased. You finally figured out that walking where I ask is better than running where I forbid. Praetor Mara said, do you remember Drevon? You made a clock there too. You said the people in the outer docks had 9 minutes to choose. They chose wrong by your math. Do you remember a little boy holding a model ship in the doorway of a hangar while his father begged on a public band? I remember many corridors, Vorok said. They blur. Then let me crisp the edge, Mara said. Patel's fingers fell. The bright stones went from host to host, turned. Audit sang a line through the carrier that set one set of amplifiers listening to another, until the corridor ceased to be a stripe and became a circle around the Dominion formation, not a kill box, but an embarrassment. Every doctrine line Vorok had spoken in the past 6 months, clipped and curated by Audit's merciless ear, began to play back not to Mara's fleet, but to his own. The picket's instruments reported a universe where orders were walls, and the only way through was to admit that walls are voluntary. Vorok's first shot lanced for the obvious mouth, found it had become his own shadow, and kissed his flagship's forward shields in a kind of ironic peck. Ko let out a breath that could have been a laugh, if it hadn't been so disciplined. He hit himself, he said softly. Patel shook her head. He saw himself. That's worse for him. We held up a glass and asked him to call it air. Admiral Audit said the pickets are hesitating. Their fire control is reading his last 3 orders as contradictory when played back in chorus. They are asking which orders to obey. Send them a public path, Mara said. Not a surrender. A way to choose that doesn't make them thieves of their own hearts. Audit wrote, and the net filled with a simple diagram bow away from civilians' engines at half guns to cool public log open. A pilot in a small picket saw the diagram and adjusted by instinct as much as sympathy. His commander swore and then adjusted with him. The one on their starboard copied perhaps from fear of being the odd shape in an otherwise pleasing line. Praetor's angry co said in the tone of a man describing a weather report. He will call this extortion. This is an invoice, Mara said. We don't rob, we bill. The corridor now a circle of sound and light, and polished shame tightened by a hair. It was not enough to threaten Hull. It was enough to make men inside feel the edges of their own thoughts. Vorok opened his mouth to pronounce the ritual phrase that made clocks king, and found his own voice recorded 3 times by Audit speaking over him, with a flaw that sounded like a stammer. Admiral Osi said he's going to try to charge straight through the band. He'll trip on his own song, Patel said. But he'll bruise us if we don't lean, Mara said. Just enough. The Dominion flagship's drive roared on bandwidths felt more than heard. The bridge deck trembled with sympathetic vibration, like a stage when a large actor stamps for effect. A panel at the rear hummed too high and then settled. The air picked up a faint, dry scent, as if paper had been warmed but not burned. Mara said, mark his venting. Marked Co said. He's heating his pride. Rawl Mara said. Are your cameras rolling? They are, Rawl said. My cousin's hand looks steady in this light. Make sure the feed goes to public boards, Mara said. Not just ours, especially his. Rawl laughed properly, then a small, tired, delighted sound. We pinned it to the bathroom mirror. We write on mirrors because pride hates to look past itself. Vorok fired again, and again, the shot chose the most confident path, and found that confidence had been reflected back into his own mouth. His flagship's forward shield dimmed one polite shade. A small alarm whined on his bridge and someone slapped it quiet. Admiral Audit said, I can now make the circle open on the far side in a way that forces him to acknowledge the public path, or else he will scuff his own shoes again in front of his friends. Do it, Mara said. Then we wait. We open the door and see who loves their mask more than their face. The circle thinned at a calculated angle. A picket captain took the invitation without announcing it and slid through, and her ship's public ledger keyed itself open with a soft chime that Trin 207's public boards echoed. It showed nothing terrible. It showed her crew's hours and their rations and the names of 2 children marked for letters. It was boring in the wholesome way of true things. Another picket followed, then a third. Vorok realized too late that the corridor had shifted from punishment to choice. He tried to call them back with the old words, but the old words were now part of the loop that made his throat sound like an echo of itself. Admiral Co said he will either pretend he intended this or try to make a very large noise to drown the fact that he didn't. Let him talk, Mara said. We'll measure the decibels. We let the record hold the tone when voices fail us, Heat Spike Osi said. Flagship venting hot. Keep the sleeves cool, Patel said. If we bite, we give him a wound he can call a scar. If we refuse to, we give him a mirror he cannot frame. Mara's throat mic clicked as her breath brushed it. All hands, she said on a tight beam. Drink water. Sit if your knees shake. The enemy will try to buy back his story. We will not sell ours. The bridge settled into an attentive quiet so complete that the smallest sounds took on meaning. A boot gently recrossing an ankle, a sleeve whispering against armrest fabric, the almost inaudible tick of cooling metal under the forward console. The air had the clean emptiness of a room just before guests arrive. Vorok spoke, but the system listened differently now. His words stood next to themselves on a public board, and even he could see where they were worn in the wrong places. He cut his own feed and sat perhaps for the first time in a long time, without reaching for the drawer of knives he kept for sentences. Admiral Audit said we can end this scene here and write the next one in a quieter room, or we can press until he makes a mistake with mass. He will make that mistake if we push the corridor tight again, Ko said. He will call it heroism. He will break one of his own. I won't break them for him, Mara said. But I will not let him think this was a parlor trick. Then give him a bill, Patel said softly, with a due date. Mara nodded. Public Board Praetor Vorok is ordered to register the doctrine used here with the Trine 2007 Civic Ledger within 24 hours, or forfeit the right to set any clock in the corridor between Hesione and Trine. Audit word it like a clerk. Rawl pin it where his men will see it when they wash their faces. Audit wrote, and the boards lit with the dry language of accountability. It did not insult. It did not posture. It simply declared that corridors have clerks as well as guards. We make law where they expect only force. For a moment, nothing moved, and then the smallest thing happened. A Dominion ensign, curious or careless, glanced at the public board and reached to touch the edge of the notice as if it were real paper, tacked to real cork. He drew his hand back quickly, but in that second someone else had seen, and the motion multiplied the way small, honest motions do. Admiral Ko said quietly, "This is the moment he hates, the little one." "Then it is the one we needed," Mara said. The deck hummed under her boots. A patient, tired hum, the sound of a ship that had spent a good portion of its day being better than it had to be, and was ready to sleep in its own skin. The air smelled of soup gone lukewarm, and coffee that had decided to be bitter rather than sweet. Her crew's faces were the faces of people who knew they had taken hits in the places no medic could bandage and would wake with those aches and move anyway. Hold fast in the quiet. The quiet is where the next choice is made. Mara let the quiet last long enough to mean something. The bridge settled around her like a coat hung true on its peg. The hum steady. The air flavor returned to neutral metal with a whisper of stale coffee. She met Audit's attention across the glass, without needing words, then used them anyway, because crews trust audible choices. "Where does he run to keep from hearing himself?" she asked. Concord Gate Audit said. "He will stage a doctrine demonstration. 3 linked clocks, 1 corridor. He intends to make a calendar out of fear." Ko's board gave a small, quick chirp. "He's already moving pickets. Their timing smells rehearsed." Rawl Mara said on the net, "Get your children under roofs. Record everything. If anyone gives a speech near a clock, zoom on hands, not mouths. We learn by quiet choices, not loud threats." The deck vibrated 1 string lower as Ose trimmed thrust, and Mara felt the buzz through the soles of her boots like a cat curling on a radiator. Patel leaned forward until her shoulder brushed the console edge. Eyes narrowed as if she could shape the spectrum by squinting. "He'll brand the corridor with his name," Patel said. "We'll unbrand it with his echo." Audit Mara said, "What are his lines of approach?" 5 Audit said. 1 he learned from us. 2 he wrote himself. 2 he stole from men too tired to argue. "Take the one he stole," Mara said. "Return it to its owner mid-stride. A glass returns what a mouth pretends to own." Concord Gate rose from the forward field like a ring laid on velvet old metal, polished by use, and the thin abrasion of dust that never truly settles in vacuum. Its maintenance spines were patched with plates in a dozen shapes, each a small story hammered flat. The gate's beacon painted their hulls in a honeyed tone that made the ship's new char look almost ceremonial. "Civilian vignette," Mara said, and Audit sent the channel where it needed to go. On Concord's market ring, a woman taped a crack in a shop window with a strip of clear film, smoothing it with the heel of her hand. "If the power dips," she told the boy beside her, "light the candle and hold it where the cat can see it." He gets scared of the dark, but pretends otherwise. In the station's reading room, an old man stacked books with spines outward the better to be found in a hurry. If the floor shakes, he said to no one, we will pick up the volumes that fall and read them at random to remember our heads are still ours. In the small kitchen, the man with the bread pan reheated soup and lined cups like a priest laying out communion. If the clocks start to shout, he muttered, we will sip in time to a softer pulse. We will show the bill in numbers anyone can read. Prater's Herald Co. said, pickets front drums beating. The Dominion formation approached with the stiffness of a parade angles so neat, a schoolchild with a ruler would have approved. Vorok's broadcast slid ahead of the hulls like polished stone across ice. Admiral, he said. Again the corridor. Again the choice. You make this more interesting than others do, and I salute you for it. You and your people may live again if your ledger loves mine. The ledger loves people, Mara said. Your ledger loves its own arithmetic. The world is a set of columns, Vorok said, pleased. What you call mercy is just a misalignment you have learned to enjoy. Audit whispered on a private line voice with the faint burr of a drive cooling too slow. I can disrupt his pursers by overloading their doctrine processors. They would seize and then reboot. Some would not reboot. Probability of crew harm is non-zero, Nomara said. We don't break minds for convenience. Then we must teach them, Audit said, and teaching is slower. Then we go slower with our hands steady, Mara said. Hold the line lightly so it doesn't snap. Vorok hung 3 clocks like jewelry at the gate. One above the ring, one to port, one to starboard, each displaying a different mercy in a different font. The effect was theatrical to the point of vanity, and perhaps that was the point. The bridge lights showed a smudge on their own lens, and then corrected themselves with a small internal click. Time budget, Osei said. If we wait, he'll make the 3rd clock sing. We won't wait, Mara said. We'll make them choirs that only he hears. Patel cracked her knuckles, then left her hands resting. I can braid the civic bands with his countdowns. He'll hear his minutes where he least likes to listen. Do it, Mara said. Make it gentle and inexorable. Teach with examples until excuses run out. Audit spoke like a clerk writing in a neat hand. We can file a doctrine registration on Concord's public board that forces his clock to acquire a consent marker from each line captain. If they refuse, his clock will still tick, but it will be alone. Co lifted an eyebrow. A referendum in a war corridor. A ledger entry, Audit said. Nothing more, nothing less. File it, Mara said. Clerks win more wars than cannons given time. Reflections cut when you try to walk through them. The board lit with a dry notice in small font. It called no names. It declared no insults. It simply required a public key on every ship that intended to obey an ultimatum clock to be recorded and visible to any civic screen. The words took up so little space on the board that they made the room around them louder. His captains are conferring, Co said, voice held flat. One just toggled the consent, then untoggled, then spoke to a cousin. Patel's lips tilted. Cousins are dangerous to doctrine. Vorok's hail returned with a new weight in it, a brick tucked inside velvet. Admiral, you meddle beyond your reach. My clocks do not ask permission from clerks. Then your clocks will ring in empty rooms, Mara said. Empty rooms are easy to clean, Vorok said lightly. Balance the book with lives on the credit side. Heat budget, Mara asked. Thin Osei said. We've been wearing patience too long. I can give you a short sprint and a firm lean. After that, we'll taste tin in the air, Gunnery, Mara said into her throat mic. Keep your best shots saved. Tap him with pebbles arranged like words. Copy, came the laconic answer. We'll throw commas until he reads. Dull spheres drifted outward, gray as unpainted promises. Audit whispered to them without making a sound, shifting their faces by hairs until they became more suggestion than object. The bridge air collected a faint scent of warmed insulation as the EW board took on load like a mule leaning into a hill. Open the door slowly and let pride trip. A small thing went wrong because small things do. a filament inside mirror sleeve. 7 overheated by half a degree, then remembered it was mortal. It popped. The sleeve hiccuped, blossomed objective light for a heartbeat, and then went dark, as if embarrassed. Praetor noticed, Ko said. He'll pinch. He will, Mara said. Patel, give him something else to be proud of, Dun Patel said. We told him the fault was our fear. We never tell him what we really fear, Mara said. We learn fastest when we refuse easy math. The first clock, the one above the gate, began to sing on Dominion channels, a tone that would have sounded noble if its job weren't to make people run where men with knives wanted them to. Audit braided the tone with the soft hiss from Concord's old vents, and a small miracle occurred. The clock sounded tired. Consent markers, Audit said. 2 green, 1 red, 18 gray. Gray is thinking, Mara said. Don't hurry, Gray. The Praetor will, Ko said. The Praetor always does, Mara said. The lattice only returns what you project. Vorok's flagship drifted closer to the gate, as if sidling to a stage mark. He spoke to his captains with a narrowing patience. 1 green for every man with a memory, he said. 1 green for every woman with a spine. And 1 for you, the hesitant. Do not let an admiral who once ran a bus at night teach you how the day moves. Mara smiled, despite blood in her mouth from a lip she had bitten without noticing. Audit put my mother's bus schedule on the public board. It is 26 years old, Audit said, printed with ink that never loved paper. Put it up, Mara said. People will understand the route. Tally what you save before you name what you win. The schedule appeared in a corner of the board columns of stops and times and a note in handwriting that said, wait if they wave you down. The 10-year-old with the comma scar pointed and tugged Rawl's sleeve. Rawl laughed in disbelief and pride, then grew sober as a Dominion picket on the far edge toggled red and left it. Consent at 7, Audit reported. Praetor is losing the quiet within his hull. He'll make a noise, Osei said. He always makes a noise. Brace for noise, Mara said. Brace without hardening your heart. The noise came as a shove of power on a frequency that vibrated fillings and made watch straps itch. The deck tremored, not the sharp jolt of kinetic strike, but a long, speaking shiver like a bridge under too many feet. A hairline crack opened in a panel seam above the medic locker and exhaled a tiny breath of cold that smelled like antiseptic. Patel winced. A heat rash flared along her wrist where a clip warmed more than it should. Status, Mara said evenly. Rash, Patel said. Pride. Both treatable. Engineering Audit said reports a leak of coolant the size of a grown man's sigh. They are fixing it with a rag, and the reasoning that makes rags good. Gunnery Co said asks to deliver a comma with a period behind it. Commas only, Mara said. We are not writing an ending here. Teach the eye how mercy calculates. Admiral Audit said, voice fractionally softer. I have a line that would save lives quickly and put a scar on our doctrine. It is elegant and cruel. I propose we do not take it. I also propose we record that choice. We'll record it in coffee stains, Mara said. People believe those more than logs, noted Audit said. I am learning the units of grace. Mirrors make tyrants blink. Vorok tried a new angle. He offered amnesty on a private sub-band to the captain with the red marker voice, warm, promising a corridor of honor and a pat on the head. Audit held the band up to the public carrier, like a man holding a fish out a window, so the market could smell it before buying. The captain's hand hovered over his toggle. Then he pushed it to Gray. Men with cousins, Co said, are dangerous to doctrine. Everyone has cousins, Mara said. Doctrine forgets that. Account for each breath you borrow. A soft tone in Mara's ear reminded her of the ship's heart. Drink, Audit said, half chiding. You run on water as much as fuel. Mara sipped from the tube on her chair and watched a small bubble crawl along it, like a slow animal in a clear tunnel. The bridge smelled faintly of lemon from a wipe someone had finally used. The fans made the same clean purr as a cat that decided to forgive the world for now. Praetor is going to slam the second clock, Patel murmured. If he cannot own consent, he will own countdown. Let him, Mara said. We will put a bell on his ankle. Close the clock. Open the way. The second clock lit. So did Concord's public board. The notice that Audit had filed grew a second modest line. Consent confirmation must include a simple sentence in the first person. I will obey. No aliases, no initials. Full names as they are lived in kitchens. You're making captains say I in front of cousins, Co said. Cruel. Honest, Mara said. Green at 10, Audit reported. Gray at 15, red at 3. Prater, Mara asked. He sends a noise that sounds like laughter and is not laughter, Audit said. We teach best when we listen first. Mara opened a narrow beam to the red-marked captain. Captain, she said. This isn't a sermon. It's a clerk asking your name. If you cannot say I will obey in that room, you could still say I will not. Silence fell on the other end like a blanket laid with shaking hands. A long breath moved the air across someone's mic. Then the tiniest click, Gray Audit said, but the tone was decisive. Decisive, Gray Co said, a new color. Let him see himself and call it justice. Vohorak pushed his flagship forward, testing the circle of sleeves and bands, as if they were ribs he could count with his fingers. He spoke again. Admiral, your clerks are talented, but clocks are soldiers and soldiers march better than clerks file. Soldiers also file, Mara said. Their boots file the floor. Their spoons file the mess. You know this. You will make me say I, Vorak said, amused and weary at once. You think that humiliates me. I think it makes you human, Mara said. The public ledger outlives any speech. Audit's voice came with a new weight, the sound of a vault door being opened in a room where no one expected a vault. Admiral, there is a ledger. What ledger, Mara said, though she already knew. His Audit said. Internal. I cannot read the sums. I can read the headers, corridor names, clock durations, annotations, acceptable ash, marketable fear. Do not publish ash, Mara said softly. Publish headers. Publish the part that names what the clocks pretend not to name. Yes, Audit said. We teach by numbers, not gore. Publish on Concord, Mara said, and on Hisione, and on any mirror we strung on a bathroom. Anchor the fleet in what makes us human. Names appeared on boards like small sparks on a winter blanket, cold, bright, and modest, never daring to be dramatic. Dravon, 9 minutes. Aria Span, 15. Dock 12-3. Under each, a signature space left blank. Consent required for enforcement. It was not a weapon. It was a mirror put flat on a table and dusted once. His captains are seeing it, Co said. One is making a face as if soup burned his tongue. Rahul, Mara said, you see it. I do, Rahl said. We pinned the ledger printout by the kettle. Good, Mara said. Men think better with steam on their faces. We opened the book to the index and let them read themselves. Vorak's voice changed by an octave of shame that he could not mask with cruelty. Admiral, he said. You have interrupted a lesson. Now you will be the lesson. We've been the lesson before, Mara said. We changed teachers. Clock 3, Patel said. He'll try to crash through while they argue pronouns. Hold, Mara said to her own. Not tight, not loose, like a mother's hand in a crowd. A picket that had marked green turned its bow away from the station, without permission from anyone. Someone just remembered their kitchen, Co said. Remembering kitchens is contagious, Mara said. On the bridge, a panel near the aft hatch finally gave up and fell, hitting the deck with a small clang that sounded much larger than it should have in the quiet. A petty officer bent and picked it up, his glove squeaking faintly on the metal, and propped it carefully against the wall as if it were a sleeping guest. Engineering reports 3 men with wrenches and 1 with a prayer, Audit said. They will give us 8 more minutes of cool if the prayer holds. Tell them the prayer is heard, Mara said. We steady ourselves with the little rituals that keep ships alive. Vorak cut his clocks because rage hates competitors. The public boards showed the sudden absence like a missing tooth in a grin, and people reached to touch the space where the digits had been, as if checking that their eyes still worked. Audit spoke into the void with the voice of a clerk. Notice ultimatum clocks withdrawn pending consent audit. Civic corridors remain open under mutual observation. Anyone firing into a civilian lane will be filmed from 6 angles and named in neat letters. Co exhaled. He's going to try something without words. He always does, Mara said. We measure the man most by what he does when he stops using nouns. A shape left the belly of the praetor's ship with the reluctant grace of something designed in a different era for a different kind of fear. Audit tagged it with a name that sounded like ancient doctrine null loom. It was a field projector meant to make radios forget their own names and screens remember only one color. He'll drape it, Patel said. He'll blind the board. Then we write with light, Mara said. Old light. Flares. Osei's fingers fluttered. I can throw antique signals. Lantern code on the sleeves. It will look like a parade for grandparents. Do it, Mara said. Grandparents know where wisdom sits. We return to simple to keep the complex sane. The null loom spread like cheesecloth pulled by a bored hand. The public board on Concord flickered, staggered, then held with half a breath, and a stubborn persistence that made Mara love Clerks even more than before. Osei's lantern code winked along the lattice simple sequences that anyone who had ever been a child in a boat at dusk could read if they wanted. Praetor is confused, Ko said quietly, delighted. He is not practiced at looking out the window. Few doctrine men are, Mara said. They like mirrors more than stars. We turned down the amplifier and found our voices. The null loom pressed. The sleeves answered with winks that made a line that any pilot could follow by feel. A Dominion picket followed, then slowed in embarrassed surprise at finding itself in a lane with 2 medships that had drifted clear to help. Its captain raised both hands because sometimes people do honest things without knowing they are brave. Consent markers, Audit said. 3 more green, 2 gray to red, 1 gray to off. Off, Mara asked. They cut their console, Audit said. They are writing their name on paper. Put that paper on the board if they send it, Mara said. In ink that has to scratch. We remember best when our hands have to press. Vorok spoke again, and it was a man with a chair pulled out from under him who spoke. Admiral. Enough clerks, enough cousins, enough buses. I will make a corridor with force. You always do, Mara said. We will fold it. He fired. Not at the station, not at the convoy. At Mara. The deck threw a small tantrum, shaking itself like a dog, after rain, then resettled with offended dignity. An alarm chirped until a stern hand told it not to be dramatic. The air smelled briefly of hot tin and then of the lemon again, as a wipe did what wipes do. Damage Audit said. External array 2 is a silver puddle cooling into a prettier shape than before. 2 burns on deck 5. 1 wrist twisted on a ladder. Sumi Patel will pretend her rash isn't a problem. It is, Patel said, flexing her fingers. I am vain about skin. You will live long enough to continue being vain, Mara said. We pay a price we can count and refuse the price that counts wrong. Praetor, listen, Mara said, and Audit carried her voice on a narrow line that felt like a thread through cloth. Your men can leave this corridor with their names unbent. You can too. Register your doctrine. Put your name after I. What would I be then, Vorok said, weary and suddenly very small, if not the man who holds a hall and makes everyone walk right? You could be the man who opens the hall for a day, Mara said. It would not kill you, no, Vorok said. But it would kill what I am. Then make a choice, Mara said, and cut the line because mercy sometimes needs a door closed so someone can see it even exists. We close gently so another door can open without violence. The null loom flickered. Audit found a sliver and slid a notice through it with the satisfaction of a letter carrier proving a slot cannot keep out mail. Concord's public board lit. So did Hizione's. So did stations that had been watching because people love to watch corridors, even when they are far away. Notice pending ledger review. Ultimatum clocks will carry no civil weight in Concord approaches. Any who set them will be recorded as performing theater, not policy. Violations against civilians will be tallied in a public book kept with dry humor and clean ink. Ko snorted. Dry humor. Important, Mara said. Keeps men from writing in blood. We outlaid the stage with tape and called it a law. Vorok tried one more old trick in a new room. He broadcast a countdown directly into the suit speakers on Mara's bridge because doctrine men believe that if they can make a leader's bones vibrate, they can make her mind comply. The sound pushed on the cartilage behind Mara's nose. Her teeth hurt. She turned and looked at her crew. Osei met her gaze with eyes that were bright with pain and pride. Ko didn't look up from his board because some men believe attention is the spine of courage. Patel flexed her fingers and then set them down as if laying them on a child's hair. All hands, Mara said. This is just a metronome. We keep our own time. The bridge's hum roared back in her ears the way a small crowd roars when a bus finally arrives in rain. We anchor ourselves in each other's tempo when clocks go loud. Audit sounded like someone smiling only with their eyes. He is failing to make us dance. Then we bow and leave the stage, Mara said. Slowly, with dignity. Admiral Ko said, how do we win without declaring it? We don't declare it, Mara said. We file it. We filed the victory under precedent and let it age. The corridor widened not by force, but by men relaxing handles they had held too tight. The null loom sagged and then lifted as if a tired curtain had been pulled back to find sun behind it. One by one, the consent markers on Dominion ships toggled to a new state that was not green, not red, not gray. It was a blank that declared itself a refusal to be a color. Praetor is very quiet, Audit said. He doesn't have words for this, Ko said. He will find some, Mara said. They will be smaller. Civic Board's Audit said, now accepting signatures on a Concord Corridor Accord. Clause 1. No clocks without consent. Clause 2, civil recording in all approaches. Clause 3, in any dispute, clerks eat first. Clause 3 is a joke, Ko said. Only partly, Mara said. We made a policy out of politeness and found it strong. The second civilian vignette came unbidden from Concord's rooms. In the reading room, the old man looked at the board and said to his books, "We will shelve this under ordinary miracles." In the kitchen, the man passed a cup of soup to a Dominion sailor who had shrugged off his harness and set it by a sink and said, "We will not spit in it, even if you expect us to." On the market ring, the woman smoothed the tape and then peeled it up and smoothed it better because work doesn't stop, because clocks do. We keep hands busy, so history has to come through us. Admiral Audit said Praetor Vorok requests a private channel that is also public. Contradictory, Ko said. Human Mara said, "Put him on." Vorok appeared in the little window in the corner of the board that men use when they want to be seen without being looked at. His face had the calm of a man who had not slept and had decided to pretend that was a choice. "Admiral," he said, "your clerks ate well. They will get indigestion tomorrow and work anyway," Mara said. "That is their way." "You made me say I," he said. "You made yourself say I," Mara said. "All I did was move the mirror to a better wall." "You expect gratitude," Vorok said. "I expect precedent," Mara said. He considered her, then looked off-screen at a hand that perhaps was his own. "What happens next?" he asked. "You post your doctrine with signatures," Mara said. "You abide by your own ledger. Or you stop using clocks where children need to sleep. And your fleet," he said. "What happens to it?" "It keeps teaching," she said. The praetor closed the window after a breath and did not slam it. "We leave doors ajar so men can surprise themselves." After, when the Concord Corridor Accord took shape with boxes and lines and dry places to sign, and when men with tired faces used heavy pens to write short names that meant long histories, Audit read aloud in a tone like clear water. "Precedent lock," the AI said. "By civic agreement and interfleet acknowledgement, ultimatum clocks have no standing absent recorded consent. Corridor privileges contingent on public ledgers. Doctrine that treats people as counters is recognized as theater and taxed appropriately." "Taxed appropriately," Ko said. "We found a way to be petty and noble at once." "Clerks are artists," Patel said and smiled despite the rash. The deck hummed in approval. The air carried the clean smell of a filter changed just in time. Somewhere below, a door squeaked like a child's violin, and then quit as someone oiled it with a rag. We made kindness into procedure and sharpened it until it cut. Mara sat with her chair's back cool against her spine and let herself feel tired. She thought of the night bus the long wrote. The quiet stops, the hand that waved the brake, that hissed like a friendly snake. She felt the rough fabric of the world under the palm of her mind and smoothed it once. All hands, she said into the net. Eat, sleep in shifts, dream of nothing important. Varen pinged her from far behind the gate, his voice as new as an unscarred mug. Admiral, he said. My dialysis patients are laughing. It sounds like coughing, but it is laughter. Tell them we heard it, she said. We save the sound of laughter because it is proof the math worked. Audit interrupted the gentle settling with a small sound. It was the sound of a pencil tapping on a ledger. Admiral, it said. A final entry. He is not done. Of course he isn't, Mara said. He will test the precedent. He is going to set a clock on himself, Audit said. Patel stared. He wouldn't. He will, Audit said. He believes self-punishment redeems spectacle. Prepare the sleeves, Mara said. Ko trace his pride. Ose, if he tries to rush his own door, put a hand on his shoulder. And if he breaks himself, Ose asked. We hold him steady, Mara said. No one learns while falling. Hold a man at the edge so he can look without going over. Vorak did set a clock. He set it in his own hull. 30 seconds. He announced it on his own band. His captains watched because they were men and women, and sometimes men and women have to see their fathers fail to start the long project of being their own, Braceco said. Not hard, Mara said. The Praetor's countdown sounded like a heart held in the hand. It beat. It beat. It beat. At 3, he lifted his chin. At 2, his mouth trembled. At 1, he looked at his reflection on a console and saw something small and necessary. He reached out and toggled off his own clock. Concord's board recorded it in a line dry as a seed. Praetor Vorak canceled his own ultimatum, witnessed by anyone who cares to own eyes. Rawl's 10-year-old knocked on the glass with her knuckles, then laughed at the sound. Her own hand made a bright, silly sound that belonged to no doctrine. We let him keep his face so he could have a future. Audit cleared its voice. Admiral, the precedent lock is now live across 5 corridor nodes. 3 more are copying. The doctrine has a new shelf to sit on and dust. Then we rest, Mara said. Then we write the next lesson with less blood. The bridge dimmed a shade and let the crew's bones settle. The air carried the warm, comforting smell of soup reheated a 3rd time and still honest. A glove squeaked against a rail. The hull sighed in the way of ships that have survived another argument with men and their clocks. Mara stood and leaned one hand on the chair, the fabric warm with her own absence. Audit, she said softly. Write this to close. I'm listening, Audit said. Mara spoke to the ship, the stations, the clerks, the cousins, the captains, the bus schedules pinned beside kettles. We do not own corridors, she said. We borrow them from those who have to live in them when we leave. We teach with numbers, so no one has to guess what Mercy thinks. We refuse callers because callers pretend they are ledgers. If you must set a clock, set it on yourself first, and cancel it with your name where children can read. Our ships will take the first hit when a hit has to be taken, and our ledgers will be posted where hands are sticky with soup. If you see a bell being raised where it has no right to be, ring your own smaller bell until the big one sounds ridiculous. She paused. The bridge lights cooled to pewter. In the forward glass blockade, beacons dimmed from bright to watchful. The mirror sleeves rewarmed their skins and grew dull as slate. The route remains open and we keep the book.